Hey everyone, I'm Mind, and in this video I'm going to be going over the March 2024 Ninjago wave as a whole and give you my opinions as to which sets you should buy and which ones you should skip out on. I do this for every new Ninjago wave that comes out, but in case this is your first time seeing one of these videos, I'm not going to be doing full reviews of any of these sets in this video. In fact, I already have full reviews of all of these up right now on my channel, so if you want to see any of them in more detail, go check those out. But in this video, I'm going to be covering the wave as a whole, and telling you, in my opinion, which sets are the best and which ones you can skip out on. So we have a total of 7 sets this wave: Aaron's Off-Road Ninja Buggy Car, the Wolf Mask Shadow Dojo, the Dragonstone Shrine, Kai's Ninja Climber Mech, Lloyd's Elemental Power Mech, Young Dragon Ryu, and finally the 4+ Kai's Source Dragon Battle. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is so-called must-have sets, and that's must-have in quotes because of course they're LEGO sets. What's must-have for somebody is not necessarily must-have for other people, and everybody has different budgets or limitations or whatever. But these are sets that I think are the best value, and if you're a Ninjago fan and you're planning on buying some sets, these would probably be some of the ones I'd recommend first. And in this wave, I think there's one, maybe 2 of those. But the one I'd recommend to pretty much everybody is the Young Dragon Ryu set. This set's only $16, comes with 3 minifigures, and I think it's just an important set to get if you're a fan of the show. This is the new form of Ryu, which presumably he's going to use in most of Season 2, and this is now the cheapest way to get both Aaron and Sora, and you also get a villain minifigure in that set. The Ryu build itself is a ton of fun, and there's so much personality in it. If you're a fan of like the Dragons Rising show at all, I think this is one you should definitely try to pick up. It's just a great all-in-one package, and they're not overcharging for it either. Now, if you're only buying sets for cool display models and you don't care as much about the show, that one's not like as necessary, but I still think it's a really impressive model. Like, the dragon has a ton of personality to it. I do genuinely like that set for what it is. So maybe not a must-have in that case, but still one I'd consider. And 3 minifigures plus a brick-built dragon for $16 is a pretty great deal. So that's probably the set I'd recommend the most. And then after that would probably be the Lloyd mech. The Lloyd mech, depending on who you are, is either a no-brainer or a very easy one to skip. I do personally recommend it because I do like all the mechs in the scale. I think they're a really great size and just value for the price, but this one especially has the best minifigure selection out of any of them. The worst build in my opinion, but still a good build. But yeah, the minifigure selection in that one's phenomenal. Ryu's actually in the way right now, let me move him. But you get the mech suit for Lloyd, the mech suit for Nia, and Cinder, the new Master of Smoke, and one of the new villains for this wave. And all 3 of those were previously exclusive to the Egot the Master Dragon set last wave, and that set was $70. This one is presumably only $20, so obviously that's a big improvement. So for the minifigures alone, that's a really good one to pick up. But yeah, as I said, the mechs in the scale are also just really good. So if you have some of the others, this is a great one to add. Or if you're just like a fan of Lloyd or whatever, there's a lot of good reasons to get this set. So I don't think that one's as important as the Young Dragon Ryu set, but it still would be one I highly recommend. Now, I don't think it's necessarily a day 1 set, like you don't need to get this day 1, but it's one of those sets that if you're a Ninjago fan, I recommend you pick up at some point. I do think it's a fun one to have. And those 2 would really be my only 2 must-haves. And the reason for that is because they're the only 2 small sets of this wave. They're both really good small sets, but the only 2 small sets. Everything else is significantly bigger. And this is new for Ninjago. I don't know if we've ever gotten this before. I guess Kinda Crystallized was like this, but normally there's a good balance of small sets and big sets. This time around, it's almost entirely big stuff. And I've seen a lot of people aren't happy about that, and I do kind of get that criticism. However, I think it's important to take this wave in the context of the January wave too, because the January wave was also weird where it was almost entirely small sets with no big sets. So this is sort of the opposite of that. And if you consider the 2 waves together, it's like one really big wave of a wide variety of sets, all they came out within 2 months. But yeah, of course, because the rest of this is a lot more expensive, it's obviously not going to be for everybody. So with that in mind, now let's move on to what I would say is the best minifigure selection of the wave. And that's very easy to say. It's definitely the Wolf Mask Shadow Dojo. If you want to get some Ninjago sets and you have the budget for a bigger set, and you just want as many characters from the show as possible, that is obviously the best one to pick. I got some of the other sets out of the way so you can see it a little bit better. But you get 4 of the main ninja, Kai, Zane, Lloyd, and Nia, as well as all of the main villains for this wave, Lord Raz, Cinder, and Jordana, plus just a generic Wolf Mask warrior. And the build itself is also very, very good. So yeah, easily the best minifigure selection, and honestly, the overall minifigure distribution is really weird this wave, because that one's fantastic, but the rest of the sets, aside from the small 2, I don't really know about. Because if you want to get every ninja suit, there's no like cheap way to do it and an expensive way to do it. No, there's only one way to do it. You gotta get the dojo, the Kai mech, and the Aaron car, and that's your only option. Because Kai is the only climber suit that comes in more than 1 set, so each of those sets has at least 1 exclusive climber suit. Jay's exclusive to the Kai mech, Cole's exclusive to the Aaron car. So yeah, unfortunately, if you want to get every ninja in these new suits, that is your only way to go about it. And I have to say, that's disappointing to see. Because if Cole wasn't in that Aaron set, I would say that's the most skippable set of the wave. But personally, I am someone who likes to collect every minifigure. Obviously, nowadays, LEGO sends stuff to me, and I'm very grateful for that. But back before I joined the LEGO Ambassador Network and I was buying all the Ninjago sets for myself, I wouldn't get every set from the wave, but I would get me enough sets to get me 1 of each new ninja suit. So the Aaron car would be something I would buy back then and be very unhappy about it. So if you don't care about getting every ninja suit and you just want the most for your money, definitely the Wolf Mask Shadow Dojo in terms of minifigures. But the build on that that one's still pretty good. However, if you're looking for the absolute best build of the wave, that would go to the Dragonstone Shrine in my opinion. Now, a lot of people have been critical of the value of that set, saying it's too expensive for the size of it. And if you only collect Ninjago sets, I do kinda get that idea, right? It is a lot more compact than previous Ninjago sets at that price range. But at least in my opinion, it makes up for the size of the set and the level of detail. If you look at the piece count, that's normal for 120, and I think the minifigure selection's pretty good too. But yeah, it's smaller than something like the Wolf Mask Shadow Dojo, but it is one of the most beautiful Ninjago sets that I've seen. So if you're purely on a build standpoint, don't care nearly as much about minifigures, that would be the set I recommend most. And then it would be a toss-up between the Kai Mech and the Shadow Dojo. Obviously two very different builds, one's a mech, one's a location build, but both of them are quite good for their own reasons. I guess I'd say the Kai Mech probably has the most fun play features, but I don't know, Shadow Dojo's a close second on that. So honestly, ignoring minifigures, I don't know which of those two I'd recommend second. So yeah, I guess if you want the best build, definitely the Dragonstone Shrine first, and then the Shadow Dojo and the Kai Mech are tied for second place. Now in terms of the most skippable sets of the wave, obviously my number one would be Aaron's Buggy. Cole is really the only thing making that set not entirely skippable. I go way more in depth about this in my review, but while I love the build of that set, it is way too expensive. $50 is absurd for that thing. If Cole was not in that set, there would be no realm where I recommend it. But as I discussed earlier, I get the desire to have every new ninja suit, and unfortunately he is exclusive to that one. So if you don't care about Cole, or you plan on getting Cole in the aftermarket or something, absolutely that would be the set I recommend to skip, assuming you don't find it on sale. Which is unfortunate, because I do like the build, I want to reiterate that. This is not a criticism of the build, that is entirely a criticism of the price. I do not know what they were thinking with that. But even if you do want to get Cole at some point, maybe that's a set you should wait on. Wait for it to go on sale a little bit, because I have to assume it's going to eventually. But yeah, Cole's the only exclusive figure in that set, luckily. All the other figures you can get elsewhere, and for cheaper as well. So he's the only thing that makes that less skippable. Then as I mentioned, the Lloyd Mech is skippable to some people, or must-have for other people, depending on who you are. If you did buy Egalt back in January, or you're still planning to get Egalt, all of these minifigures also come in that set. So if you have that set and don't need duplicates, this one isn't as exciting. And if on top of that you don't care about the mech builds, then yeah, this is one you don't need. There's nothing new in this set per se, but it is a really good one if you need those minifigures or you like mech builds. And then this makes me very sad to say, but unfortunately, I do think the Dragonstone Shrine is quite skippable. As I said, I love the build. I think it's one of the most beautiful builds Ninjago has ever put out. But for a casual fan with a more limited budget, that minifigure selection does make this set a little bit weaker. There is two exclusive figures in this set. There's Euphrasia and Master Wu. But unfortunately, neither of them are main characters of the show, right? Those aren't the main ninja. And Kai and Nia are both in that set, but they're in their Dragon's Rising Season 1 suits, not their climber suits. And that's honestly what does it for me. If those were the climber suits, that would make the value of that set a lot better, and I could see a much bigger reason to get that. But if you're trying to collect all the newest versions of the main characters, spending $120 on a set that doesn't have any of them, I get that that's not going to be for everybody. Euphrasia and Wu are great minifigures to get, don't get me wrong, I'm very happy they're there. But they feel more like a bonus if you already have everything else, not really like the first two characters you want to be getting. And then of course, the 4+ set is pretty skippable. Now this is the cheapest way to get the new Kai and Wildfire minifigures, which hey, if you want them and you don't want to get the full Kai Mech, that is the cheapest way to do it. But the build itself is obviously 4+, it's very simple, meant for younger kids, so it's not going to be for everybody, and if it's not for you, it's not for you. So I'd say overall, considering the entire wave as a whole, for most people with like a moderate budget, if you're a fan of the show, what I'd recommend you get on March 1st are the Shadow Dojo, the Kai Mech, and the Baby Ryu set. I would wait on the Cole card till it goes on sale, and obviously this is just my opinion, you don't have to get any of this, but that would get you every Ninja Climber suit except for Cole. You would get Wildfire's new outfit, you would get Sora's new hairpiece, plus two of the best builds of the wave, the Shadow Dojo, the main base of the villains, and this really cool mech for Kai. I think that's probably the best value for your money. And then just talking about the wave overall, I do want to say that minifigure distribution is weird this time around. I think it's so bizarre that 3 minifigures are exclusive to a $120 set. That does feel a little absurd to me. Now, I do want to point out, as I said at the beginning of this video, you gotta consider this wave with the previous wave. And while the climber suits are very expensive, right, they only come in big sets, the mech suits are incredibly accessible. They only come in small sets. You could get any mech suit you want for $30 or less. So it seems like they're maybe trying a new thing with these waves, where the climber suits are like the quote-unquote premium suits, right? They're the more expensive ones, they only come in big sets, while the mech suits are the more common ones, coming in the smaller sets. I do wish the Climber Ninja were more accessible, but I'm happy that there is at least some Season 2 variants available for cheap, even if others only come in big sets. Let's see, I'm looking at these, is there anything else I want to point out? I love the villain distribution, I think it's great how many sets they come in. Roz is the most expensive main villain, with the cheapest set he comes in being Egalt from the first wave for for $70, but he does come in a total of 3 sets now in the Shadow Dojo and the Dragonstone Shrine as well. Cinder comes in tons of sets, which is amazing to see, and Jordana's not too tough to get either. She comes in 2 sets this wave and 1 in the previous wave, and just the generic Wolf Mask Warriors are in so many sets. Overall, though, I would say this is a really good wave. I honestly love pretty much every single one of these sets except for Aaron's Buggy. That one is probably the weakest build of the bunch. Again, I don't dislike it, but it is probably the weakest of all of these, not counting the 4+ set. And then the price makes it even worse. So yeah, that's the only one I'm not like super passionate about, but the others are really superb. So I hope this helped you guys decide what you're gonna get. Again, this is just my opinion. I'm curious to hear all of your thoughts in the comments. Which sets are you guys gonna get on March 1st? Which ones are you gonna wait for later for? And which ones are you never gonna pick up at all? Of course, if you want to see any of these sets in more detail, including my thoughts in more detail, go check out the playlist in the description or in the pinned comment. I have 4 reviews of every single one of these sets and lots more. And I think as for this one, I think that's about all I have to say. So thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!